Thank you, Dr. Hunger, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure. Yesterday in the same room, I talked about the story about poultry industry in China. I think yesterday I told you that the poultry industry growing very fast last year in 2019. It's all because of the African swine fever outbreak and make a big shortfall of the pork supply. The first two speakers also told us something happened in Russia and globally of the pork production and consumption. I totally agree. So I will give you first some information about in China. So first, last year in China, there's one incident. It's the African swine fever. Yes, it says first report is in 2018, but the main influence was happened in 2019 last year. So in general, I think there are three concerns from the government, from the industry, and from the commercial companies. And for the government, they more focus on the resuming the recovery of the pork production and the trend to stable the price of meat, especially pork price. And for the industry, I think they're focused on two things. One, whatever the pork industry or the poultry industry, they really want to increase the production and to make up the shortfall of the meat supply. But on the other hand, all those two or the total animal production industry, they get more focused on the quality, biosecurity, and healthy, and all these factors influence the consumption behavior. So I think it's a very right choice, and they are working on the right way. And for the commercial company, I think they are now meet a dilemma. Is on one hand, they have a lot of money, the cash, because of the price is going sky high last year. And the second one is they hesitate to invest more to expand their production capacity, or the risk they're going to face is the consumption is not stable or uncertainty or difficult to make the predict. So I think this is the dilemma for the commercial companies. So some of them, they already did a lot to invest more to expand, but some of them still focus on the exact capacity to share the high price. So for the data, and all this data is produced by our company, Owen. So sorry about that. Okay. So for this data, we already ran for more than 10 years. So last year, we saw the sow herd reduction is 48%. Sorry, it's the hog inventory is reduced 48%, and for the sow herd is 27% reduction, and for the hog production is 27% as well. And the net import is 56% import. So the total pork supply decreased 27%. And we see the price in the left below. It's the price is going very high, and at the end of 2019, it's a little bit going down. It's all because of the high price, the consumption. So the people choice to not consume that much pork at that high price. Later on we'll talk more about the price tendency this year or the after. And the last figure is the sow inventory. So you'll see there are two colors. The green bar is the normal sow, and the dark bar is the female pork. Because of the sow herd reduced 27%, so the farmers, they leave the female hog as the reproductive sow. But the female hog, the performance, especially for the reproduction, is a uncertainty, but usually it's very poor. So it makes some more difficult to make the prediction for the future tendency. So we try to make a calculation according to the sow herd inventory. So we have two scenarios. So you see the first picture. We calculate the performance, the mortality, and the everything about the sow production, and then we calculate the piglet production. There are two scenarios because of the uncertainty of the female hog performance. So we'll see in the last year, the end of last year, the piglet production already touched on the floor and going up gradually. And then we calculate the hog production, and it will be resumed in the first quarter in 2020. And usually the farmer will keep longer of the hog farming in the farm, so the live weight is increase 3-4% we estimate. So the pork output will be picking up also in the second quarter this year. And this one is for the importation. The government is already implement some encouraging policy. For example, they reduced the pork import tariff from 20% to 8%. And they remove the tariff on the feed, pig feed import. And by all those implementations, we see the last year the pork import make a historical high. In general, I would say this number is something like 3.2 million tons is include the pork and edible offal. So you know the Chinese people actually they really prefer some edible offal. So they totally makes 3.2 million tons. And just we make the analysis for the demand and the supply. So we see the upper the zero line is the oversupply, and the red line is the price. So if the market shows the oversupply of the pork, and the price is going down. And for the next year, and we calculate that is the whole year, it will be a less supply. So the price will turbulence a little bit, but in general stay at the high level and stay at the plateau. But in the second half, I told you that the production is picking up gradually, so the prices will going down a little bit. Another reason is that the high price will hurt the consumers, and they will pay more to buy the expensive beef and mutton, or turn to the cheaper poultry meat. So that's two reasons to make the price going down in the second half this year. For the cost price, there are two models. It's the farrow to finish, and we see it's very stable. And for the blue area is the feed cost. So we see in the past several years it's very stable. And the red area is the cost of piglet. So we see for the farrow to finish this model, the cost of piglet is more or less stable. But compared to the weigh-in to finish this model, the feed cost is the same. But for the cost of piglet, it's a big difference, and this seriously fluctuate in the past several years. It's all because of the sometimes it's because of the sow herd is reduced, like last year, and sometimes, for example, in 2014. Sorry, there are no data in the 2014, but actually in the 2014 is too much production and oversupply, and then the sow herd is too much, and then they reduce it, and all those factors, they reduce the cost of piglet. So nowadays, the piglet price is the big challenge to the farmer who is running the model of when to finish. And this is the profit in the past 20 years of the hog. So last year, you'll see it's really sky high. Whatever the two models, when to finish or the farrow to finish. And the last time you'll see the same situation is in 2016. And the same thing in 2011 and 2007. But in the 2007 and 2011 is because of the disease. It's one is PRRS and one is the PhD, piglet diarrhea syndrome. So that two diseases, they hit the industry and get the reduction of production. So the price is going up, and the farmer earn more. That's the profit of the hog farming. But in general, I think it's in the past several years, if you can right manage, you can earn money by farming hogs in China. That's the top 30 players in China, but the totally the hog production is only make 10% in total, because they're almost 700 million hogs in 2018, and for pork is something like 56 million tons in 2018. So the top 30 producers, they only make 10% in total of the nation, and there also a figure of the top 5 players is wins is number one. I think it's almost number one in the world. They're slaughtered 24 million hogs, but it's their the plan in earlier of 2019. But at the end of this year, they cannot make it because of the African swine fever. And the second one is the Muyuan. They are growing very quickly, and they make their plan earlier this year. So the top 5 companies, they are all the public company. So they really get encouraged by the investors. So they make a very quickly or very large size of the capacity expansion plan this year and for the next few years. And that's the estimation by our company for the total meat supply production, the domestic production. So based on the 2018, there are 90 million tons, but in the 2019 and 2020, we have 2 years consecutively decline of the pork supply. But at the same time, we see the poultry production is going up. And for the poultry, it's not only the white feather broiler, the industrial feather, but also we have the yellow feather broiler and the dark and goose. And so it's very diversified of the poultry industry. So, but all the segmentations of the poultry industry, they growing by the different percentage, but they cannot make up the shortfall of the pork supply. See, in the next these 2 years, 2019 and 2020, we estimate there are totally 7 million tons increase of the poultry meat, but for the pork production, it's declined. It's 20 million tons, something like that. So in the end of 2020, I think it's 22 million tons of the total meat production. And that's the estimation for the importation. Last year, we already make the historic high. Importation is 3.2 million tons. And then for next year, and we think it's another 1 million tons increase. So to the total one will be 4.2 million tons, including pork and edible offal. And by the different countries, we still think Germany and Spain will be the top two exporters to China. But it's told us that the uncertainty is the Germany. If they are still free of African swine fever, then it could be. And second one, I think is the North American. In the last year, whatever the USA and Canada, they reduced a lot compared to their historical record of the exportation to China. But since this year, the new deal in between China and the U.S., I think we will increase importation from the U.S. and as well as from the Canada. We left the ban to Canada pork. And the third one, I think, is Brazil. And Brazil, they will increase very high speed of the pork production, and most of the increment will be export to China. And the number one bank, I think, is Ito. They will send a very high level delegates to China to investigate all these opportunities for investment or trade or something. I heard. So that's the opportunity for that. But in general, I think in China, how to say that? You see, by different year, we have the different amount of importation, and all the importation amount depends on the domestic production and also the consumption there. So I would say maybe, there are 4.2 million tons next year, but after that it will be decreased because the domestic supply will go up. So it's not will stay at the same level or the same amount. China will import that much in the future. Why? At the same time, the poultry production going up very quickly. So last year, they're totally near to 16% increase. And this year is another 12.6% increase of the poultry meat. So you will see the poultry meat quickly make up the shortage of the pork supply and the meat supply. And also it will influence the consumers, the pattern of the meat. This year, 2020, it will be 36% of poultry meat of the total meat consumption, and the pork consumption will decrease further, maybe less, say around 50%. And that's the product sales channel by the four different the consumers say the pattern. So like Mr. Bo has shown us the picture. The Chinese people, they really love the hot fresh meat. So you'll see the first picture, the orange bar is very high in the past several years, but it's gradually decreased. So the people will gradually move to the chilled fresh meat. And by the African swine fever influence, the people by force to consume more chilled the fresh meat, and say their 11% decrease of the hot fresh consumption, but the 10% increase of the chilled fish, and 8% is frozen, and 2% is for the further processing product. So in the past several years, I think for the total meat production in 2023, it will be get back. It is to be the same amount with more or less the same as in 2018, and in the 2024 it will get more, and the 2025 keep growing. But under the pattern of the meat production, the pork, it will be 48% in 2025, and for the poultry, 29%, and for the beef and mutton is 13% totally. So I think it's the same pattern within the meat consumption. The people will choose poultry as the healthy and the cheaper and the easy to get from the fast food service or the e-commerce. And for the pork, because of the African swine fever, so the people say a big amount reduction of the pig consumption, and some of them they will move to a poultry. Some of them maybe go back. So that's the question mark for the consumers' behavior in the future. For the import, I think, you should go for these regulations by the Chinese government. But at this moment, because of Russian, still the African swine fever epidemic area, so I think it's still impossible to export pork and the pork production to China. Till 2 is left by OIE of the ASF epidemic area of Russia. So the conclusion, this year the China pork output will be keep decrease by 15% to 20%. The uncertainty is the female hog performance is the difficult to estimate. So we give two figure 15 or 20%. At the same time, the poultry production will grow in very quickly. And for the consumption, I think for sure the people will choose more poultry meat, but there's still uncertainty because Chinese consumer they still prefer to pork for a long time, so it's difficult to change it in a very short time. So that two industries they really want to maintain their consumption consumers group. So as I said, one hand they increase the production capacity, and the one hand is to increase the quality assurance and to deliver the quality and safety products to consumer. They are fighting for the consumers group. And for the consumption, I think the healthy is the first priority. It's the priority for the consumer's choice. The second one is the taste is really different by the Chinese and the foreign countries. And our Chinese still trying to actually what kind of meat they are going for is decided by their tongue. It's not only the protein but their tongue. The taste is very important. The third one is the price, and the convenience. For example, in China, yesterday I already showed this data. In China, we have the one-person household and two-person household, and those two households calculate is 45% in the total population. So it means that the people in alone at home or only two the couples at home, most of them they will not cook at home. So they will buy the fast food or make the e-commerce. So their menu is decided by the restaurant. So under the restaurant, sometimes they go for the cheaper one or by their concept to make that menu. So that's the consumption chain influence factors. And for the trade, and at the moment, I think for Russian pork producers, you cannot export because of African swine fever epidemic in Russia. But I think for long term, there's still a lot of opportunity in between our two countries. We can go and see, and we can try to make something we can do now. For example, the communication and we can understand each other and win the ban because of African swine fever left, and then we can go for the normal trade in the future. That's my presentation, and because of very short time there, so I leave my email address here. So if you have some want more detailed information, you can send me an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Но я все-таки дам шанс нашей аудитории задать вопросы.
Можно я задам вопрос? Во-первых, просто для уточнения, когда мы говорим о том, что там в прошлом году было 3,2 миллиона тонн свинины, импорта в Китай, в следующем там 4,2 миллиона, правильно ли мы понимаем, что примерно половина это мясо свинины, а половина это субпродукты?
Yes, in general, I think the proportion of pork and edible offal or byproduct, the 45 is pork and 55 pork, and 45 is the byproduct.
Более-менее. И второй вопрос, конечно, вот эта последняя фраза последнего слайда, импорт из России невозможен. Все-таки мы хотим понимать, я не зря показывал, что мы уже более 10 лет имеем вирус, но при этом у нас нет какого-то падения, и у нас нет какой-то эпидемии, когда от этого страдают все. Все находится под очень жестким контролем. Скажем так, избавиться от вируса, к сожалению, я думаю, все, кто его получили, это будет наверное, на десятки лет, к сожалению. Полностью, с учетом дикой природы, кабанов диких и так далее. Поэтому вы допускаете теоретическую возможность, что все-таки из зон, потому что Россия огромная страна, это не маленькая Бельгия или Дания, я по территории имею в виду, что теоретически может быть признаны какие-то свободные зоны, из которых возможен импорт в Китай. Я сейчас спрашиваю вас просто как профессионала, как ученого, такую теоретическую возможность допускаете ли вы?
Yes, I think so. It's really, it is very beginning, in the first case of ASF reported in China, and we quickly checked the Russian pork production, because we know since 2007 it's ASF epidemic, but we see it's keep growing. So I think it's thanks to the past 20 years. I still remember their self-sufficiency plan implemented by the Russian government for the meat or the animal products. So 20 years ago, I served a Dutch company. It's a hybrid part of Nutrico. At that moment, my colleague told me that, if you take the flight from Amsterdam to Moscow, and you can know 70% of the passengers because they are going for the agriculture business. At that moment, and the Russian set up the modern production system. So I think it's in the past 12 years, even there's a African swine fever epidemic here in Russia, but because of the modern production system set up at that moment till now, and then it's not 100%, but very good protect the pork production. But whatever is not decided by us, but I think you should, the government, the Russian government, the association, and your producer group can positively contact with Chinese authorities. For example, it's maybe a solution in the eastern part of Russia. If it's really free of ASF, maybe we can negotiate. But it's the issue negotiated by the government, between the government.
Да, это понятно. Спасибо.